What's up, everybody? Welcome to another video of Stories and Reviews. Today, I wanted to do a book review on A Thousand Splendid Suns. This is the last book I read by Khaled Hosseini, and it is bittersweet because I think it's the last book I have of his. I think he has 3 books, if not 4. But this kind of wraps up all the books I've read by him. But before I do that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and do all the things. And then let's get into it. So before I do a review on this book, I wanted to do an overview of all the books that I read by him in the order that I read them in. So the first book I read, the first book that introduced me to the author is The Kite Runner. Let's have a moment of silence because this book kind of opened me up to things that are happening outside of my home country. Yes, things are happening, but the depth in which Khaled Hosseini wrote this book made me want to go do my own research and actually look into the lives of Afghan people. And so, yeah, this was devastating. This was beautifully written. Um, the story follows 2 boys. So basically, let's read the synopsis. So Afghanistan, 1975. 12-year-old Amir is desperate to win the local kite fighting tournament, and his loyal friend Hassan promises to help him. But neither of the boys can foresee what will happen to Hassan that afternoon, an event that is to shatter their lives. After the Russians invade and the family is forced to flee to America, Amir realizes that one day he must return to Afghanistan under Taliban rule to find the one thing that his new world cannot grant him, redemption. And so, I don't think the synopsis or the blurb kind of describes the book in its fullness, in its fullness, sorry, in its fullness. And if you read it, you'll see there's depth in the relationship that these 2 boys have, whereas one is privileged and one isn't. And it teaches you about standing up for yourself, about forgiving yourself for not acting the right way or making the right decisions at a certain time in your life, and that there's always a chance for you to kind of redeem yourself in that way. And there are some heartbreaking twists and stories that come into play during the entirety of the book, and it is fabulous. And I think for this to be my first book by him, is a delight. It's pretty awesome. Even the reviews are like it's shattering, devastating, and inspiring. Hosseini is a truly gifted teller of tales. He's not afraid to pull every string in your heart to make it sing. Rings true with tenderness and truth. And I couldn't agree more. Now, the next book I read by him was And the Mountains Echoed. So, what I realized about this author is that he has no interest in making you feel comfortable, right? I don't know if that makes sense. He has no desire to make the reader comfortable. He just wants to tell the story the way it needs to be told and the way he sees fit. And and the Mountain Echoes, he brings in a lot of points of views from different people who come into contact with these 2 important characters in the book. And at first I was like, why? I want to know what happens to these people. But then once you finish the book, it kind of covers the overall story. It makes sense. It puts the whole story into a nice little bow, and it just makes sense. If that's the only way I can describe it. So The synopsis is 10-year-old Abdullah would do anything for his younger sister. In a life of poverty and struggle, with no mother to care for them, Pari is the only person who brings Abdullah happiness. For her, he will trade his only pair of shoes to give her a feather for her treasured collection. When their father sets off with Pari across the desert to Kabul in search of work, Abdullah is determined not to be separated from her. Neither brother nor sister know what this fateful journey will bring them. This book had, you know how a book sometimes has pauses where it's kind of like the author gives you a break from devastation, right? He gives you a break from being heartbroken the whole time and just being at the edge of your seat. I felt like there were a few moments like that here, but if you really think about it, he kind of questions the characters of those people in the moment where you feel like, let me relax, it's not so heavy anymore. And so those are the moments that actually stuck with me, which means it doesn't have to be earth shattering for it to be beautiful, if that makes sense. But this book kind of changed my life. There's one scene where one of the characters and her sister have a moment that, oh my God, that really breaks my heart. And it made me think of my own sister. And I will forever cherish this book for just that one scene alone. These kids being separated at such a young age was devastating, but I feel like that scene alone kind of changed my life in a way that I couldn't have imagined. And so this is one of my favorite books by him. They're all my favorites, but yeah. And so the last book I read by him is the book I finished about 2 weeks ago, A Thousand Splendid Suns. Now, in romance, with romance books, you can rate the spiciness of the book and rate it from 1 to 5 or whatever you rate the spiciness of a book. But I feel like if we were to rate devastation, we were to rate how devastating, how heartbreaking, how, oh my God, like if we were to do that, it would literally be in the order I read them. It would be like, let's say 3, 4, 50. Like this book was so heartbreaking. Every chapter had heavy themes. Every chapter had heartbreaking things that they go through, and I don't think I've come down from the high of this book. I literally sobbed in every chapter. From part one, where we are introduced to Miriam and how she lives her life with her mother, where she was born as a, was it a bastard, or like her dad was married to other wives, and basically she's seen as a mistake. She's seen as a nobody, and her mother tells her this every day. And so part one is about her childhood and how she um, wants certain relations with her other siblings that never even happens because her dad's wives hate her and hate her mother. And so when her mother dies, she goes to live with them for a while, and she is forced to marry this old man who makes her life living hell, and it is devastating, the things that she goes through. And I hope I'm not spoiling this for anyone, but there's a scene where um, the husband is like, oh no, you didn't cook this food properly. He goes outside, takes stones, and put them in her mouth and tell her to swallow, to chew and swallow, because that's how her food tastes. And that's just like a snippet of what goes on in this book, with the war in Afghanistan being the background of the story. It just intensifies the whole thing as well. But man, Khalid Hosseini is a wonderful writer. This man, I swear, no, but I need y'all to bring me books that can do better than this one. I'll wait. I'll Really, it's fantastic. He's amazing. And so the synopsis of the book is Miriam is only 15 when she is sent to Kabul to marry Rashid. By the way, we hate Rashid. We do not F with Rashid. Rashid is a, we don't like him. Okay? Nearly 2 decades later, a friendship grows between Miriam and a local teenager, Layla, as strong as the ties between mother and daughter. When the Taliban take over, life becomes a desperate struggle against starvation, brutality, and fear. Yet love can move a person to act in unexpected ways and lead them to overcome the most daunting obstacles with a startling heroism. From that childhood to living with a man who abuses you verbally, physically, and threatens your life in any way, to living in a time where there's war in your country, to cut down into these teenagers who fall in love but are separated at a point in their life where they're like, oh, this is my person, but life throws a lot of obstacles in their ways that they can't act on it because one moves to a different country and the things that transpire throughout the book um, test the character's courage and will to live, period. And that's when you realize that sometimes people make questionable decisions for survival, not because they are bad people. And as devastating as it was, and like I said, Khalid Hosseini has no desire in making the reader comfortable. He's just telling truth. The ending, I always wanted it to be like, we've been going through so much BS. I would like this to end well. It kind of did for Layla, but not for Miriam. The life that she had from the beginning, she did not deserve. It was, there was a scene where I put my book down and I was like, I was actually crying because I did not care because I was mourning this character who was going through so much, who never got a break. She could not, like, life did not cut her a break. It was frustrating, devastating, heartbreaking, and yet she found it in her heart to to be a mother to Layla, even though she didn't give birth to her, but she was a mother to Layla. She was this companion that she never really had because her mother was not that person for her. Her father was not that person for her. She had barely anyone growing up. And so to find Layla, to find Layla's kid, and to actually say, oh, in my lifetime, I was loved. In this life, I lived a life where there are people who actually love me and I am important and I am needed. It was oh, so beautiful. I'm in awe. I'm always in awe of her strength. And I actually was complaining and I was like, why does everyone focus on Miriam? Layla went through a lot. And then towards the end of the book, I got it. I really got it. And Layla wouldn't have had certain things if it wasn't for Miriam. So yeah, this was wonderful. This was an amazing book. And I think I might read it again. For as long as I live, I will never forget these books. Ever, 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 ever. When they say books teach you empathy, they give you pause and just give you a moment to think. These books do that. All three of them in different ways, even though they are set in similar situations a little bit in terms of the war in Afghanistan being, or wars rather, because there were multiple. The wars in Afghanistan being the background of everyone's story here. And so this, I wish I could read them again for the first time. This has been a fantastic journey, and I really, really, really recommend every single one of you, to read all three of them to experience the fullness and the greatness that is Khalid Hosseini. Okay, that is me, That's the end of the video. But before I go, guys, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. And I'll see you next time with another review, recommendations, all the good things.